Right, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again. This is, I think, the second of our monthly Asian Hornet talks, or is it the third? I don't know. It is nearly Christmas, so we won't be too long, hopefully, so you can all go and start wrapping your presents up and things. We've got Jonathan here tonight who's going to talk to us about Buzzcopper. So I'm going to hand straight over to him. We are going to take questions about Buzzcopper after his presentation, and then we will open the floor up to talk about all the pressing issues I know some of you have got. We've had a couple of email questions in advance, which we will also add in, and where possible, we will give you answers. But I'll say now, just to preempt some of the questions, we don't have all the answers. So I will hand over to Jonathan if you'd like to.
Diane, can I just say something before we start? If you are know how to do it and are able, could you just edit your name on the Zoom call to say what your association is? And if it's something that's not very clear, that what your first name is as well, that would also be helpful. So if you know, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Claire. Over to you, Jonathan.
Okay, let me just share my presentation then. Right, now. It's not looking quite right.
It worked fine in practice.
It did.
It's
It always
technology,
does.
isn't it?
So try again. No, what's gone wrong? What's different?
Is he still co-host, Diane?
Yes, I've not changed any settings. There we go.
Oh, there we
Lovely.
go. Okay. Right, so let's just get back to the beginning. Right. So, yeah, this presentation is about Buzzcopper. First of all, I should say I'm not a beekeeper. I'm probably one of the very few people on this call who's not a beekeeper. I'm just a retired IT consultant. I like fiddling around with electronics in my spare time, and I just thought I could do something useful by building something that might detect Asian hornets, having seen
Right,
about
your
it on the
video's
news.
off.
Sorry. So buzzcopper.org is the website if you want to go and find out a bit more about it. But let me just run you through what the key features are. First of all, here on the right-hand side is one of the buzzcoppers. It comprises, well, it's an AI-powered Asian hornet detector. It's very cheap, about 25 quid. We can power it from a small solar panel for pretty much an entire season. It begins to have trouble around November or so when the days are a bit shorter, but during the summer, it's pretty good on just a really small solar panel. Zero bycatch, obviously. And when it detects an Asian hornet, it will send an alert by email over Wi-Fi, if it's got Wi-Fi. It's all going to be open source software. It isn't quite open source just yet, but it will all be published so that people can freely use it and build their own. So the ingredients are, first of all, a really tiny microprocessor. This is about the same size as my thumbnail, and it's incredibly powerful. You couple that with a camera. This little camera here costs about $1.50, and a Wi-Fi aerial so it can talk to the world, and an SD card. We have a battery holder, a switch, and a charger module so you can keep the thing topped up if the solar cell isn't good enough. And we have some 3D printed scaffolding that holds all the bits together. And at the bottom, we have a bait pot. We have a floating platform that floats on your trapeze or whatever. And that floats in this little pot that slots into the bottom of the bottle. We use at the moment a 1 litre tonic water bottle. So the bait pot goes in at the bottom and the gubbins goes in at the top. And you can use a really small solar panel to go with it to keep it topped up. And all of that costs about £25, as I say, so it's really quite economical. Oh, and also there's about 2 man-years of software development that's gone into it. I wouldn't say that everything that's in there at the moment is has taken 2 years. I've had a lot of wrong avenues I've taken and things I've junked, and so what we've got now is the result of lots of fruitless red herrings and so on. But we are now there pretty much. So how it works? First of all, the device takes a photo of the bait station, and it compares the picture it took previously with the picture it's just taken, and it looks for patches that are darker than they were in the previous picture. So here you can see the difference image. Those little green dots are the bits where it thinks it's darker than it was previously. If there's a sufficiently large area of darker dots, that, as far as the logic is concerned, means it's a possible insect. If it finds a possible insect, it then runs the internal AI on the image, and we then get out an inference. This inference is pretty good, 99.6% positive, and it'll work with more than one insect. So here it's detected 2 separate Asian hornets, or 4, and it works with other insects as well. We have a fairly limited repertoire of insects that it will detect. Asian hornets and European hornets are by far the most common, but it will also detect flies and butterflies to some extent as well. But Asian hornets and European hornets are the primary ones that we find and that we need to distinguish between. So if we find that we do have an Asian hornet in the picture, it then connects to Wi-Fi and will upload the photos it's taken up until the I mean, it could have been taking photos for some while and not seen an Asian hornet. It'll upload all the pictures it's been taking up to the cloud, and it will then send an email alert that it has now found an Asian hornet. And then it goes to sleep until the next picture is due, which is about every 30 seconds. As well as the basic detection operation, there's a control panel where the operator can change various different settings. So here's where you can enter your Wi-Fi credentials, and you can record multiple different Wi-Fi points that you want it to be able to connect to. You can record the email addresses that the device is supposed to send alerts out to. You can record the location where the device is currently located. And that's a latitude, longitude, so it can be plotted on a map. You can also record what you want to regard as dawn and dusk. So that's typically the elevation of the sun over the horizon at dawn and the same at dusk. So in the summer, the day is really long. In the winter, the day is really short, but it's still a consistent time with elevation of the sun over the horizon. There's also various other detection parameters. I won't go into details with those, but they can all be tweaked by the user by interacting with this control panel website. You can also see any error messages that the device has thrown up that you may need to correct. So when the device uploads its images to the cloud, they go to a place that we're calling Buzz Render. This is a website that you can navigate around, and if it's detected an Asian hornet, you can go and see a page that will show you when the detection was made, where it was made, and you get a map that you can zoom in on to see the precise location of the device at the time the detection was made, and you can see one or more pictures of the sighting. So if there were, say, 3 consecutive pictures taken at 30-second intervals, it'll capture all of those together and count that as one sighting, and you can see all the pictures together. So that website allows you to see all images from all devices. So even though you've only got one device, you can actually have a look at pictures from other devices too. And the metadata, the when and the where, and the inferencing and so on, that's all stored with the images up in the cloud image store. You can browse from any one sighting. You can browse forwards and backwards in time. You can look at how many sightings there were in a particular month, and you can go to the previous month, the next month, and so on. Other features that the device has got is over-the-air firmware updates. This is very important because I frequently make mistakes in the code and I have to fix bugs on the fly. And the over-the-air system means that I can publish a new version of the code, and the device just downloads the new version of the firmware the next time it boots up. We've also got the ability to retest old images. So as we're improving the AI and it gets better at inferencing, we can go back over previous images that we've recorded and get the new AI to rethink what the inferencing was for old images and gradually use that to improve our inferencing statistics. It'll store and forward images if Wi-Fi is not available. So you could have a device that's hanging up in a tree in the middle of nowhere, and it will log all the images that it's seen with the inferences that it's deduced from the AI. It'll log them all on the SD card, and then next time it connects to Wi-Fi, it will upload all of them, although it can take an hour or so to do that. There's also a QR code reader built in, so if you want to teach it about a new Wi-Fi hotspot, you can point it at your phone and it will read the QR code and record those Wi-Fi credentials to make it a bit easier to configure the thing. There's also the ability, again, this is more for me, if the device crashes, it will upload where it got to up to the cloud, and I can then look and see exactly where the device crashed and therefore work out which bit of code doesn't work properly. Highlights of the year. The first device, which was field test 01, I deployed that on the 8th of June down on the south coast with Simon Spratley. We built our first batch of devices by the end of June. We got our first Asian hornet sighting on 13th of July. By middle of August, we got hundreds of Asian hornet pictures. And this was mostly because we had lots of people who are ambulance chasing, going after the latest nest which had been discovered or reported and hanging the detectors nearby. So we got an absolute deluge of Asian hornet pictures. That meant, because we had so many Asian hornet pictures, we were able to train up our own internal AI model by the 8th of September. Before that, we were using Google Vision to do our inferencing, and it was absolutely useless. And it cost a penny a time for every inference. So I was pleased to junk that. But now that we have our own AI model, it's really pretty accurate. And as you saw, we're getting 80%, 90% inference rates on most good pictures. I applied for a trademark for BuzzCopper, which was granted on the 21st of November. So we can use the BuzzCopper mark, knowing that no one can infringe it. And we've now built about 70 devices, some of which have been deployed, but quite a lot are sitting in stock. And we're gradually handing them out to people as people put up a good case for having one. The plan for 2026 is more bug fixing. I can't say the firmware is perfect at the moment, but it isn't bad. Better AI, and I'll come on to that shortly. BuzzCopper 2, and again, I'll come on to that very shortly. We're going to do a better version of BuzzCopper than what we've got at the moment. We need to plan for production. We need to do more promotion, and this is one of the first promotional events. So improving the AI, we started off using Google Vision. You upload pictures to the cloud and then tell Google Vision to tell us what it thinks it is. And we got some absolutely laughable results. You feed it a perfectly good picture of a European hornet, and it says it's a Madagascan hissing cockroach. And, that was kind of the standard for most of the inferences, useless. But then when we built our own AI model, we got much better results. The one that we started off using was, we're calling version 2, which used pictures 150 by 150 and a neural network called Faster Objects, More Objects. We've been playing around with that. Version 3, which is the current live version, that's basically the same model, but with a few tweaks to improve the mistakes, get rid of some mistakes. I'm now testing version 4, which is still the FOMO neural network, but now with a slightly different resolution. Much the same, it is a little bit better. It's had more training time, so we're getting slightly better results. But we're also going to try another FOMO model at 80 by 80. And then we're probably going to move on to a completely different neural network called You Only Look Once. And there may be other AI models beyond that, but a lot will depend on how much time I can devote to tweaking the AI. But that's going to be happening probably until January, February or so, trying out those different models. Buzzcopper 2, the principal things that we want to do with Buzzcopper 2 are put it in a larger enclosure. The 1 litre bottles that we're using at the moment, they're a bit special. There aren't so many of them around because they're Indian tonic water bottles. We're now going to move across to using pretty much standard 2 litre cola bottles. And this will allow us to put solar panels inside. And now that we know that the devices really don't need much juice at all to run, we think probably those 2 internal solar panels will be enough to keep the thing running. And because they're going to be inside the bottle, we don't have problems with keeping the panels clear of rain and that sort of thing. We'll also take the opportunity to put in a cheaper processor. The one we're using at the moment costs about £13. The new processor I've found is $3.98, hugely different. We're also looking at the possibility of adding cellular radio. Another beekeeper who's an electronics engineer has got some ideas on this front, and we're hoping that he's going to be able to build us a board that will slot inside roughly where that green rectangle is in the drawing, and that will then allow the device to hang in the middle of remote woodland and send alerts when it finds something by cellular radio instead of requiring Wi-Fi. We're also going to put a larger bait pot in there. At the moment, we can get through a full bait pot in a couple of days, and we need to be able to last for about 4 or 5 days. We're also going to, you'll probably see that that bottle is cut off at the bottom. So that now allows insects to be able to access the bait pot from 360 degrees, apart from where the legs are. And that apparently is going to probably encourage Asian hornets to feed when there's already European hornets on the bait platform. And having the larger bottle will mean that we get better weather shielding. There'll be less water getting into the bait pot. So that's basically the plan for Buzzcopper 2. We also need to look at how we're going to scale this up for production. So far, we've been using a volunteer network to build these things. We've got about 5 or 6 people who can solder, who've got 3D printers, and we can produce a few every day if everyone's working at it. But obviously that's not going to be enough if we're going to have huge numbers of buzzcoppers required out there in the field. So we have the volunteer network. We can expand that if we've got more people who want to join in. But we may need to look at licensing a manufacturer to make these on a more professional production line basis. But a lot depends there on how many we're going to need. So how many is one of the big questions I'm hoping we're going to answer in this session. I need to know from you guys how many you think you can use, how many you can find a home for, and whether you can fund them, given that they're going to be about 25 quid a shot. So I would ask you, please, if you do think this would be useful in your area, can you start a dialogue with us at preorders@buzzcopper.org? Let us know how many you think you might need, not holding you to anything at all, just need to get some idea of what we're pitching at. If you say, I want 100 now, and then you find that you can't raise the money for that, then fine, just send us another email. We just want to start a dialogue with you guys so that we have an idea of what we have to try and accomplish. Also, I'm looking for anyone who's got any relevant skills. So if you've got a 3D printer and you'd be willing to print out some of the skeletons for these things, if you can solder and wouldn't mind assembling some, if we're still going to be using our volunteer network to build things, let me know. Probably, well, you can either let me know in an email to the pre-orders email address, or you can send me an email at support@buzzcopper.org, as it says on the buzzcopper.org website. So promotion, this is one of the big things that we need to do. We need to get the message out. There's only a certain amount I can do. I'm happy to do speaking engagements to any beekeeping associations that would like me to essentially do this presentation again. But if you can put the word out as well, and maybe even, I can let you have the presentation and you could do presentations yourselves. Quite happy to do that. So, yep, talks. And we also need to do some fundraising. It would be lovely if we could find donors who would provide the necessary money so that all you guys could get these things for nothing. I think that might be a tall order, but let's have a go. Let's see if we can find funding from any sources that might be able to provide some. I should just say at this point, I'm not making any money out of this at all. I'm doing this for free. I'm not going to take any orders myself. We're going to try and do all the ordering through, I hope, Tony Warren's outfit, Asian Hornet Alert. So I'm giving my time free. If anyone else wants to get involved, then I'd like to think that they'd be able to do it on the same sort of basis. And then the fundraising needs will be that much less. So any questions?
Oh, you have absolutely loads of questions. But thank you for that. That was really interesting. Lots of people have had questions answered because they said, "Can we buy one?"
Right.
So I think they have to get in touch and talk to you about that directly.
Yeah.
We will make sure we share a copy of your presentation on the member hub with the link for this recording. I think that would be really useful, and that answers someone else's question. And I'm going to ask Patrick to ask two of his questions because he has asked quite a lot. So Patrick, could you prioritise two questions and then we will let other people ask questions and maybe come back to you.
Diane, thank you very much. First off, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Jeremy. And I'm sure we can all help is the first point, but in our various ways. 2 points, that's what I'm being asked for. The first thing is that in order to assess quantity, we need to understand how we're going to deploy and operate this.
Yeah.
Is how dynamic this is going to be, whether you effectively use it more as a wide surveillance tool or you use it as a targeting tool in order to focus down. That makes a big difference on the number you need and how you're going to support what you have.
Indeed.
So I'd be really interested to, and I fully expect it's a deployment strategy. What do we do operationally on the ground is what we're going to need to work out. The second thing is we can absolutely help you with marketing. I can also help you potentially with investment, depending how you want to play this going forward. But I would really say, please leverage the AHATs because we do a lot of community engagement, depending where you are in the country. And we'd really like to include the appropriate messaging in this because we have stacks of opportunity.
Brilliant. Yes. Well, yeah, absolutely. You guys need to understand what this device is about. So we do have a number of devices in stock, and I mean, subject to how many of you want to actually have one to play around with, we can distribute them. Tony Warren can put them in the post, and you can have a go with them and come to terms with how they work, and then form a view on how you can most sensibly use them in your area. I think the typical way that they're going to be used is much like a bait station. You're just going to put them in places where you think there could be Asian hornets and leave them to cook, basically. While we don't have a cellular radio option, it will be necessary to go around and harvest sightings off them if they're not in Wi-Fi areas. If you want to, you can put them in outside your kitchen window or something, so that it's always got a Wi-Fi connection, and then you won't need to harvest the images off them, but you will still need to top up the bait pot. So yeah, sticking them in remote areas and then going around on a regular basis and harvesting the images, or sticking them somewhere where you've got Wi-Fi and leave them to report whenever they have found something. Those are the two ways in which they're going to be used. But you're much more expert in how they could be most effectively deployed, what spacing and that sort of thing than I am. I'm just the electronics guy.
Thanks, Jonathan. Mark's next. Mark, do you want to unmute? Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Yeah, just brilliant, Jonathan. Thank you for talking us through that. Just a couple of questions. You mentioned you had success. You had a sighting of an Asian hornet using the device. Where was that, if you don't mind me asking?
The first one was North Kent. I'm trying to remember the precise name of the place.
Okay, so we're talking UK. I wasn't sure whether it was France or.
No. The first ones we got were in Kent and I think it was just Kent actually, possibly Sussex. But
Yeah.
then we got quite a few. Lucy Chaunton took one over to France to a friend's place in Brittany, and we got quite a lot. A few hundred, I think, in one day.
Wow.
And did we get any from any other foreign? No, I think the French. Oh no, that's right. We did get some from Toulouse.
Toulouse as well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Thank
mostly
you.
they were this country. But it was not many nests. It was a few nests, and we got large numbers of pictures off the few nests that we found. And as I
Thank
say,
you.
we were ambulance chasing, so I don't think we actually discovered any new nests for the first time.
Yes. Okay. And then the bait that's used, what are you using, and how much does that cost to replenish?
Well, some people are using Trap It. I'm up in the Chilterns, so we don't have any Asian hornets here, but I do have a regular stream of European hornets that visit my garden traps, and I'm using a homebrew recipe that Simon Spratley came up with, which works incredibly well. Just sugar, water, some grenadine, and ethyl acetate. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's possible as well. Okay. Thank you. I'll stop there. I could ask many questions, but others would like to ask. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Roger next. If you unmute, please. Thanks.
Wouldn't believe I was a comms engineer, would you? Thanks very much indeed, Jonathan. Good presentation. First question is there any chance that presentation could be forwarded to us as contacts, please? Is there copyrighted on it?
No
Because
copyright. No,
it would
happy
be
to
very
let everyone
useful
have it.
for me to be able to repeat it as best I can
Yeah.
to the members
We
within our
will put it within the
association.
member area. If Jonathan sends it over, we can get that done.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And since we're only allowed two, is there a prospect, do you think, for homemade kits?
Well, yes. The electronics is probably the most difficult thing to source. You need to have the right microprocessor, and it needs to have the firmware in it. You need to have a very particular camera. But we could certainly ship out the electronics, and then if people are able to solder them together, then they can do that. And certainly if people want to print out the plastics, that would make a big difference. And people can certainly source their own cola bottles, 2-litre cola bottles. Yeah.
So there isn't a copyright on the 3D printout as such. We'd be able to get the software for that.
None of this I'm copywriting. It's all freely available. It's my gift to the world.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Rod's next. If you want to unmute, please. I have just put a Google form link into the chat if people want to say which association or branch they're from, their email if they want to be contacted by Buzzcopper, and whether they're interested in how many they'd like. And then we can do a quick summary at the end of this session and tomorrow to pass on to Jonathan. So Rod, thank you.
Good evening. Actually, you really answered most of my question with the last person, because all I was interested was, because I guess it's in kit form, I do actually have a 3D printer, which I'm yet to master, and any soldering shouldn't be too much of a problem on that as well. So yes, I'd be very interested in getting hold of one in kit form and making it, and then possibly, making others for other people in the Worthing Club if they wanted them.
Well, this is exactly the sort of feedback I'm hoping for. If there's a good community of people out there who can put all the other bits together, provided they're given the electronics, then that will really make our life a lot easier. So yeah, brilliant. Glad to hear that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. Cornwall, you're next. Can you unmute, please?
Good evening. Two questions. The version 2 is going to be the cost on the version 2. Any indication if it's going to be more or less? Same?
It won't be any more than £25, but that won't have the cellular radio in it. It's possible it'll be less expensive. I don't yet know I have to design a charger board for it, and I don't yet know how much that's going to cost. But it's very unlikely it's going to be more than £25. I have no idea what the cellular radio option is going to cost at the moment. The guy who's doing it is being a bit coy about the likely cost of it. He's doing all the work for nothing, but we just don't know what the cost of production is going to be for it. But if what you want is the basic Wi-Fi model in with the solar panels inside a 2 litre Coke bottle, it's very unlikely it's going to be more than £25.
Okay, the second question then, we're in Cornwall and we get quite a lot of rain. And to me, your pictures of that first one, it's going to dilute that trapid very quickly.
Yeah.
Does it get shelter, or are you going to have a skirt or anything to deflect the rain away?
Well, as I say, I think if we assume that Buzzcopper 2 is going to be around by June, then that's probably the model you should be assuming you'll be using for real. If before then you want to have a Buzzcopper 1 to basically understand how the device works, then we could certainly do that. And you probably will suffer the bait getting rather diluted, but it's not really going to be doing a great deal for you until we're beyond the queen trapping period, I think. I think its main role is for spotting workers.
Thank you.
Thanks. We've got Peter next from Sussex. Can you unmute, please, Peter?
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, really excellent stuff, Jonathan.
Good.
Very impressed indeed. I'm just trying to fill in your form, Diane, and it starts with what association branch are you representing?
I've just amended that. Sorry, I was doing it on the fly whilst chairing it and doing other things. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'll fill in the new one. And just
Thank you.
a small technical question. When you said it reports the coordinates as grid references, is that something the user has to input somehow, or does it have a geolocation facility?
Well, that's a very good point, actually. The current version and Buzzcopper 2 just has a field in the control panel where you can paste in coordinates grabbed from Google Maps. So you find yourself, you find where you're putting the device on Google Maps, you right click and you grab the latitude and longitude and you paste that straight into the latitude longitude field in Buzzcopper. And then that's what it will report when it uploads the device to Google to the cloud, and then that's used to generate the map again that you saw when I showed you the picture of the Toulouse sighting in the presentation.
I was just wondering whether you have plans to use what 3 words. I'm a swarm coordinator and an AHAT coordinator, and sometimes people send me grid references and they get it completely wrong. It's one of those things that's prone to error, whereas what 3 words is so much simpler.
Yes, I did consider using what 3 words, but in order to get something that works and to be able to convert it into a map really easily, latitude and longitude was the easiest thing. I can certainly put in the ability to convert from what 3 words to a latitude longitude at some point, but there's other things which are higher up the priority list at the moment. But there is another point well, there's 2 other points that arise from your question. The first one is that by allowing people to key in their own location, they can set a location that's not precisely where their apiary is. If you want to be a little bit more careful about disclosing locations of things, you wouldn't probably want people to have a pin on a publicly available map that shows where your apiary is. So you can change the coordinates as you wish. But the other thing I was going to say is that the board that our electronics friend is supposed to be designing is going to have a space for a GPS device. And so we should be able to get devices to report their location automatically rather than you having to set it. That's probably going to be an option rather than something that's built in, but that will make the process of setting the location of a device when you're moving it to a new location a bit easier. We might perhaps just equip a few devices, the ones that get regularly hung up by people who are casing a particular wood or something. We might just have those set up with GPS, and the ones that are going to be more statically located, we'll leave those without a GPS. Don't know at the moment. It's all up for grabs.
Okay, I'm down in East Sussex. I'm chairman of East Sussex, and I'm sure we could do with some down here.
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy to put my shoulder to the wheel, either promoting or assembling or whatever else.
Great.
Thanks.
Lovely, thank you. Andy's next in Gwent. Can you unmute, please, Andy?
Thank you, Diane. Quick question, Jonathan. Was this demonstrated at an AHAT conference in Bridgewater earlier this year?
No.
Right. Okay. Because I've seen something like this already with a camera, and so I've seen something like this already.
I'm going to bring Luke in to answer that. I think Luke knows. You'll have to unmute Luke. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would have been like the one that Exeter University had bought out, Andy,
right,
with Peter Kennedy. Yeah, and I think it was called the Vespa AI off the top of my head. It was more like a big
Vespa
dome.
AI, that's right.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it was more like a big dome with a camera on top. Yeah.
I can say a word or two about that if you want me to.
So that's what I saw. So I put two and two together, and unfortunately I came out with six. So I do apologise. But from seeing the one I saw in Bridgewater and seeing the one that you've made, fantastic job, well done. Kudos to you. Hopefully, thankfully, in South Wales we won't need any. We're hoping that they never come this far. And I work in IT myself and love electronics. So, but unfortunately, I'm too far away to actually offer you any assistance. But well done and thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you. Shall I just say a word about Vespa AI? Do we have time?
Yes, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Vespa AI, I've been following their work with great interest. I had a Zoom call with them nearly 2 years ago now, when I was just starting out with Buzzcopper. And even at that stage, they had a really sophisticated AI model. It was capable of doing almost perfect recognition of Asian hornets and in real time. You know, you could see a video and it would show the rectangles of recognized hornets moving around. The problem is that they've put a huge amount of effort into this really clever academic AI model, but it requires a much more expensive process to run. And I think they've priced themselves out of the market. As far as I can tell, the cost of their device was about 200 quid. I think they realize that it's too expensive and they've been trying to do things to reduce the cost. But because they depend upon a Raspberry Pi and because it's all sort of Unix behind the scenes, and they've got an expensive camera, they're just never going to be able to reduce it down to £25. And they won't now respond to my emails and Facebook Messenger posts and so on. I've been trying to get in touch with them and they are just not replying at all. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they're still in the game, but I don't think they're going to have a real opportunity if Buzzcopper does take off.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'll just give everyone a quick update before I move on to the next question. On the form that I rather rapidly knocked together, we've so far had 56 responses. So thank you, everyone who's responded so far. Over to you, Mark. You'll have to unmute, please. Mark Powell.
Thanks. Just to come back in again, I suppose just listening to our friend from Sussex there, just in terms of where the biggest threat is. So I'm just wondering, as a community together, should we not be prioritising perhaps those regions who are more likely to experience the Asian hornet sooner than others? So it's just a call really for us to coordinate and make sure the resources go to the right place.
Thanks, Mark. The chair of the Asian Hornet Committee is here listening and has been talking to me about something very similar recently. Are there any more questions people want to ask? Do you want to ask something else, Patrick? There's no other hands. Oh, there is. Sorry, Greg's got his hand up. Sorry, Greg.
Unmute.
No, unmute, please, Greg. That's it.
Yeah, I've got it. Well done. Thank you. Jonathan, thank you very much for that. That was very informative and very exciting. I suspect the key to this is going to get the price down as low as possible so we can all buy one or half a dozen each.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that you could have a custom-made PCB with a built-in camera, built-in processor?
Absolutely, yes. What I would love to do is to put all the stuff that's being done by the electronics engineer together with all of the components that are on the pre-built processor boards I'm currently using. Put all of those onto one PCB that's our own design. But I need someone who can do that. And although I can design circuit boards, I don't think I can put enough time in to build a board that will do all of that. I really need an electronics engineer to do that for me. The guy who's designing the cellular board, well, he's taking a long time to do the stuff that he is doing. So asking him to do even more, I suspect is not going to work. If there's someone out there who does have a background in PCB design and would like to try putting together a board, I'd be really keen to support you. I can give you all the circuit diagrams of the processor modules I'm currently using. I can do the schematic design. I just can't do the circuit board design and push it all the way through manufacturing and so on. I need someone to help doing that.
Is there any way we can get the government involved in this?
Well, that really comes down to what I was saying in the presentation about fundraising. Yes, we need to be trying to find all the possible sources of funds that we can. And if we find that we've got, some big grants from some places, maybe we can turn some of these initiatives into more commercial endeavors. As I say, the guy who's designing the cellular board is doing it for free, and he's going to make them for cost of parts or organize production in China for whatever they charge. Yeah, if we could pay him, he would probably be able to do it rather faster. At the moment, I can't afford to do that. I've already invested as much as I can sensibly afford for my pension into this, and I think I've reached my limit.
I suspect by the summer, when we're going to need these, there'll be sufficient demand. If you can bring the cost down, I'm sure we could sell thousands.
I think so. I think even at 25 quid, they're not a bad price. And as I say, I don't think Buzzcopper 2 is going to be any more than 25 quid. And it's quite possible it's going to be less than 25 quid when I fully bottomed out what the price of the little charger board is going to be. So yeah, it can go down from 25.
This is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Patrick again, unmute. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of questions, and I'm sure other people have them too. And I think some of us at least can help in pretty much every angle that you've mentioned this evening, from money to tech to production to business case and so on. What would be really helpful is to have a small forum, a small group, probably a working group of folks who are contributing in specific ways, a bright ideas club, if you like, but they're actually helping practically in a rainbow team. Is that something that we could do fairly soon? I mean, I put my hand up because obviously you and I have spoken before with Tony and so on, and I've been aware of Buzzcopper 1 and so on. Yeah, but it would be really helpful if we could have a small group of people to do a bit more heavy lifting.
We already have a WhatsApp group, or we've got several WhatsApp groups. There's a Buzzcopper development group and a Buzzcopper production group. So Buzzcopper development will be where I would expect discussions would go on. People who've got ideas about producing a single PCB, that sort of thing. That's probably also where software would be discussed if anyone wants to help me with that. And then the production group is where we can discuss manufacturing arrangements and that sort of thing. So we do have some WhatsApp groups that we can certainly add people into if they want to be involved.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in one of those. So, but that's really good. I'm happy. I'll ping you an email. I think it's the best thing. Thanks very much. Brilliant job. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Patrick. Graham Summers.
Hey, Jonathan. Thanks very much for the talk. A purely deployment question. We're never going to get Wi-Fi anywhere near our apiaries. However, we've all got mobile phones. Would it be possible to be able to use a mobile phone to collect the Wi-Fi, act as a tether in some way?
Yes, and that is what we're doing at the moment.
Right.
So the idea is that you have the device at your API or wherever, and you visit it on a regular basis, and in order to get it to, or in order to harvest the images, you simply switch it off and switch it on again, and switch on your mobile hotspot on your phone. And provided you've told it the credentials for that hotspot, it will then connect to your phone and use that to upload all the images to the cloud.
That's what
So
I heard.
any
Thanks.
Wi-Fi
Yeah.
service that you've configured it to know about, it will use to upload images.
Brilliant. Well thought out. Thank you.
Thanks. Andy, unmute. Thank you.
Lovely. Hi, thanks, Diane. Jeremy, thank you so much. This is a real breath of fresh air, actually. We obviously have not, to our knowledge, been affected up here yet, but we have huge areas to monitor. So this device is fantastic. Yes, a lot of them are remote, but what I like about this is that we have a lot of contacts here who have, if you like, we can get in contact with people who have holiday homes, and those holiday homes have Wi-Fi's.
Yeah.
I'm not a great fan of having any traps around apiaries. I think it just encourages the wrong things to turn up in the wrong places.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tremendous device. As far as funding is concerned, from my feelings from going around all the beekeeping associations, certainly here, and also some of the other non-beekeeping organizations, I don't think funding for something as reasonable as this is going to be a problem. And certainly, if we have anything to do with it up here, if there's anything we can do to help, mainly in the promotion side, but I shall troll my volunteers up this way for their technical capabilities. It is at your disposal.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, just ping me an email to let me know.
I will. Yeah, I'll send all this in an email to you.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Pleasure. It really is.
Thanks. I think that's everyone's questions on this. There are some comments in the chat. I will save the chat and send it across to Jonathan later. So I have put the form in. So far, there are 67 responses, which is 68 is just gone up, which is very good. Thank you for filling the form in. It doesn't commit you to anything, but it will give Jonathan a real idea of how much interest there is. And I think there's huge interest. Just keep checking the questions. Does anyone else want to ask Jonathan anything? Right, Steve and John. Hi, John. Steve first, please.
Well, this is more for you, actually, Diane. As an organisation, do you think that this possibly could be written into the guidance from BBQA? Because the way I see it would be used as part of the verification team. So I would issue one of these to all of my verifiers, and if they get a report, then they'd use this to go out rather than the bait station, unless obviously we're in close proximity of a known nest. But you know, if proven, that would be a good way to establish it, to actually write it within the guidelines of actions to be taken. That's it, really.
Yes, yeah, I think it'd be amazing to be able to encourage people, rather than having to go and watch a bait station for half an hour, to put one of these out and know that it was doing that watching for you. That would just really revolutionise things, wouldn't it? Hi, John. Can you unmute?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Jonathan, this may make it too expensive and not be doable, but would there be any possibility of an external socket for an external aerial to widen the Wi-Fi range?
Well, it does already have an internal aerial that goes up the spine of the plastics, rather than using the onboard aerial. So yeah, I've tried to make it give it as wide a coverage as is possible at the moment. But there is a limit. You know, we can get about, I don't know, 100 meters or something at present, but in most of the real high risk target areas, you know, remote woodlands and so on, there's not a hope we're going to be able to get a Wi-Fi signal, which is where the cellular radio comes in. This electronics engineer who I talked about, he has got a lot of experience in a thing called narrowband IoT cellular radio, which is very low bit rate data and it'll find a cellular radio station where a phone wouldn't be able to make a call. So even when it's a really long way away, it'll still manage to make a connection and get the data through to the cellular radio station. So I think that's probably the best way that we can try and give the thing a voice when it's in a really remote area. I think at best, even if we had a better aerial, we'd only be increasing the area that it would be able to cover by, a factor of 2 or so. And that's really not going to cut it for most of the applications where we want to cover remote woodland.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Jonathan before we move on to talk about the spring trapping announcement? Oh, Luke.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jonathan for everything that he has actually personally put into this. It's been a lot of hard work over the last couple of years. Like honestly, not even a beekeeper either. And I would like to implore everybody else that's here, if you have any sort of soldering skills or welding skills, or have a lovely 3D printer that you could offer some assistance to the team that are working on these devices, if you could make contact with Jonathan, that would be really appreciated. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I know there's so many appreciative comments coming your way. Thank you. The DEFRA announcement about spring trapping has caused quite a lot of fizz, I suppose you could just describe it as. They're not stopping doing everything. They just found it wasn't particularly an effective use of their time and resource. Perhaps if they had a few hundred buzzcoppers, it might be. But we will be getting more information from them, but that's effectively all we know. We are asking for maps of high risk area, and we will get those. And we will let everyone know what you should be doing in spring. Luke, do you want to talk about, you've asked Nigel or Pete Davis, I can't remember which now, to come and talk to us in spring. We're going to do that, aren't we?
Yeah, so we've asked for an update early spring from Nigel or Pete Davis. Nigel has said to me that he's more than happy to come and address everybody here. They are waiting on lab results, and that will come at the end of the year, early next year. So we'll try and hold off everything until we get everything back from Ferroscience, or the MBU get everything back from Ferroscience. That's really all that I've got to say about it.
Dave, do you want to unmute?
Hi, Diane. Thanks. Really, really interesting, Jonathan. Thanks very much for that. Just on the DEFRA discussion around them not spring trapping, because this flies in the face of what Andrew Durham has been saying and the experience in France and from Belgium, really. I'm just sort of curious as to we not understand why they've come up with that conclusion.
We can ask them questions. It's getting answers from them is often the difficult bit. The amount of information they're allowed to give out is sometimes restricted by their own rules. So, Jackie, unmute, thanks.
I might be able to answer a little bit the previous person's question. The number of queens that the National Bee Unit actually end up trapping for I think, thousands of traps that they put out in check is tiny. I think there were 21 queens caught this year in the spring trapping they did, 19 last year, and I think of the 21, only 5 were caught by the National Bee Unit in our area. Most are caught by members of the public, with the hornets flying into the conservatories and the like. Peter Davis said it's rather like the proverbial needle in the haystack. You know, you put your trap out and you just hope. We put 13 traps around the cold red nest, which had produced queens late in the year. It was a nest that was found, I think, in the October and had produced skeins. And we put 13 traps around there, and they were out for 4 months using Trap It, checked regularly, you know, every day or so by a member, and we caught nothing. And yet, 2 of the queens subsequently turned up. I think the furthest one went was about 13 miles over towards Canterbury, and the other one went back down towards the Oldcombe Valley. So, no, actually Womanswold, which was still in a southerly direction. So actually, the reason our members, we opted not to do spring trapping is we just couldn't give the 4 months intense trapping that we needed and deliver results. We deliver results by trapping for workers, and that's the way we've gone for the last 3 years. And my members have just decided again, they voted, and we're going for worker trapping as an association. We do have traps out all the time. Don't think that that's the only trapping we do, but it's the trapping that we expect our members to get involved with and do to their best ability. That's the trapping that we do in August.
Thanks, Jackie. Chris, you're next.
Will the MBU still do genetic analysis, you know, on queens if we do successfully trap them and hand them over?
We don't know. We would assume so until we're told otherwise.
Can I just come in on that as well, Diane? To be honest, although the genetic analysis is useful for the DEFRA to make their decision on whether or not they will do the trap trace and nest destruction, it is the icing on the cake. It shows the nest relationships, but it's only showing the relationship between those hornets that have been caught. We don't know what's not known. Personally, I think it's very expensive. I've been told it's very expensive as well, and it's not done in real time. So personally, I think the money would be better put into something like Jonathan's excellent bus coppers or something like that if we can persuade them to do that.
I suppose the question for me, Jackie, is that we have a tertiary incinerating site that imports trash from France. So when we do have the Runcorn nest, there's a high probability it came via that route, and it would just be interesting to know. From a route perspective, and certainly Mark McLaughlin from the MBU has suggested he would like to see genetic analysis continued.
I think from their point of view, I mean, in some respects, I hope they don't, because if they find too much relatedness between the nests, then that might be the reason why they say it's established and withdraw all funding. I think that it would be worth them doing random testing just to make sure we get no incursions from Southeast Asia again, and maybe the odd one, but they're doing it on a huge scale and they're investigating the nests as well. I just think if there's a limited amount of funding, it would be better to put it into the trap trace and nest destruction where it actually makes a significant difference on the ground. Personally,
I think if the genetic analysis stops, it will be because they've decided there is no point in further testing, and that will be bad news for us, won't it?
It will be. Yeah. This year is the crunch year, Diane. I'm sure of that. The crunch year, really.
Right. Thanks, Jackie. Peter again.
Yes, I just wanted to point out there's some good questions in the chat, actually, particularly from Becca in Guildford. Would you care to read that out, Diane?
I have been trying to keep up with it, and the minute I get to something,
Would you like me to read it out?
yes, please, if
Or
you have
maybe,
it to hand.
or
Yes.
maybe Becca would like to. Anyway, the post was the biggest issue I have with the NBU tracking or backing off from spring trapping is simply that we don't know where the nests are that have been removed. Given that hornet queens hibernate with 200 or 300 meters of their nest, then knowing where it is becomes rather important. And there are a couple of ones after that as well.
Yes, I think I saw Alistair's comment, was it? Not Alistair, John's comment. Somebody's commented on that about how far they've foraged from nests and things.
Yes. If we don't know where the nests are that are being destroyed and they're not putting out traps, surely that's a bit of a hole in the system.
It is. Luke, have you got an answer for that?
Obviously we've had a few chats about this with like Nigel and a couple of others. And there's all sorts of data protection issues, especially if the nest is discovered on somebody's property, like in their back garden in a tree or a bush or something like that. And it's down to the individual at the end of the day, the property owner, if they would want that information passed out. In regards to how far queens or guines will go and hibernate from their original nest, I've had a lot of conversations with Dominic, a chap from Flanders, and Dominic's actually found queens hibernating in rotten logs, like within 10 or 15 meters of a nest. So there's all different sorts of variables there, I suppose. Yeah.
So could you put in place a system whereby people who have found nests that have been subsequently destroyed, whereby they would give permission for the location to be identified approximately?
It wouldn't be down to us because we're not the ones dealing with them. It would be down to the NBU, and I suspect it would require huge protocols and processes and policy changes. And that ends up having to come from a minister and then get approved by the civil servants. So it's got to come and be agreed. And I actually suspect if you said to most property owners, whether it's someone with a large garden or 20 acres, oh, do you mind if I tell 30,000 beekeepers that you've had something interesting on the land? I think most of them would say, no, it's all right, thank you. And it's just going to be one of those problems that the data is effectively secret at the moment because it is personally identifying usually someone's garden. The places we've been told about where it isn't, there was the one at the the bird place where it was someone watching for birds spotted one. And that's sort of effectively open land. So that's much easier to know about. But I really get that frustration because I would love to know where they all were, to pinpoint know where they all are. And I don't get to know.
I think I'm not sure I would agree with that. I mean, a 1 kilometer square would be a step in the right direction. And the app that the BDI ER2 app that came out earlier that has loads of 1 kilometer squares all across the country, and it doesn't identify somebody's property precisely.
And this is the joy of it. No, it doesn't where I live, but where my mum used to live, it might do because people have huge amounts of land and things. There are some places it will be really easy to spot. I'm going to ask Luke to jump in and then we'll go to Lucy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate what you said, Diane. I mean, even within my own family, a couple of them own very large properties, and even that 1 kilometer square or 100 meters or 500 meters, that's still going to be within their boundaries. And it just goes back to that same thing again. What private landowner is going to want the world and his dog to know? Like you said, Diane, that something interesting was on their property.
Right, thank you. We will ask again because we don't mind asking and being told no. because it's better to ask. Lucy.
I just wanted to point out that that data, which is pushed by NBU as the weekly update that many of you will have seen, that informs you when new nests have been found, that is being input into the catch map, which can then be filtered. So if you want to see what nests have been found after a certain date, you can filter the catch map. And you can get at that information that way. But obviously that will show you what has been published by NBU through their weekly updates.
Thanks, Lucy. Graham.
Hey there. I'm going to keep on asking this question every time I get a chance. It's a good 3 or 4 years ago when I was given some little vials of worker hornets in alcohol, which I was able to show to the public wherever I go, and they've caused a lot of interest, and they are one of my best tools I've got. I keep asking, can we not have some more of these things, as we've now got hundreds of these things being found in the south of England. I was told at some point that all the hornets found all go back to be analysed and they can't be given away. If the NBU are now starting to withdraw, can we please get some of these dead hornets into jars that we can show the public?
Thanks, Graham.
I'm going
to jump in there before I go to Lucy. They are not withdrawing, they are stopping one aspect of things. I don't want to frighten people into people thinking they are. Lucy.
Yes, I completely agree that hornets in resin, hornets in alcohol are a great way to educate the public, and they usually start a lot of conversations, which is great. I have discussed that very recently with my SBI, and as per what Diane just said, I think we're not going to get any bodies released to us from the NBU from this country. However, we do have a lot of English-speaking beekeepers and non-beekeepers, on the continent, and it's not beyond the wit of man to get bodies that way. So I'm in touch with various people, and if you want to be doing, what I'm doing, putting them in resin, etc., it is possible to get your hands on some without bothering the NBU. Yeah.
Thanks. We have John and Alistair on the call, I think, from Jersey. I think someone on Jersey had sent us some the other year. Maybe that's something we could ask for again or someone in France, just to get a lot so we can distribute them. And we could perhaps get that done later next year, because it's not going to be easily done first thing in the year unless you've got cupboards full of them, John.
It got a freezer full.
Dave Heaton, did you want to ask a question?
Happily speaking on mute. Sorry, Diane. Thanks. Sorry, it's Dave Heaton again from Lancashire. Yeah, just to pick up on the thing about the relationship with the MBU, I think it's, if we don't improve this trust between the MBU and us, then we're going to be making the same mistakes that France has made, and the bureaucracy gets in the way of us actually dealing with the Asian hornets, really. So just the message saying, "Oh, we're stopping spring trapping," without the explanation behind. I think Jackie's explanation is exceedingly good, actually, but I'd like that to come from them. And I also think, having had a confirmation of another drone seen in our area, I think the individual sightings that are being captured by the MBU and again not shared with us is really bad, because if there are areas, so the guy who's speaking before from South Wales says we've not had any here yet. If there is a sighting in South Wales that's confirmed, you won't hear about it. The MBU will not tell you about it at the moment. I think this is a real problem.
Thanks, Dave. That is something we've already asked them about. We want to know where all the single sightings are, because we think they're important, and I know you lot do too. And I think the outcome of this has to be, we ask the NBU to meet with us and our local associations. And if we do it on a regional basis, so maybe we have the Northwest, and Yorkshire might want to pop over for that. I know they're not Northwest, but to get that sort of more focused group of people. And then we could have one for Central, we could have East and Southwest, and maybe use the areas they use for their allocation of officers. Maybe that's what we should be doing next year, to arrange to meet with you as coordinators and someone from NBU, so you can hear what they want you to be doing in the year to come, rather than having a big meeting with one person. We do it on a more local basis. Do you all sort of think that might work? Can you wave or nod if you do? Would it be helpful? Would you be interested? Right.
Yes.
Yes. Right. We'll see if we can get that organised. Mark, unmute. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just following on from that comment. Really, it's from Dave. It's my question is, where are DEFRA and the MBU when it comes to the great work that Jonathan's doing? Are they excited about it? Are they talking to him? Are they looking to invest taxpayers' money into helping prevent what could be quite a dramatic shift in our space, really? I'm not sure, Diane, whether that's to you or whether that's to Jonathan. Has there been contact? Are they interested? Are they bothered?
I think we need to ask Jonathan if he's had direct contact with them.
Sorry, I missed the question. I was answering the chat questions. What was the question again?
It's just whether Jonathan, DEFRA or the MBU have been as excited as we are about what you're doing.
I don't know. I've not had any contact with them directly. I'm aware that NBU people have seen it, or at least talked to people who've seen it, but I've had no contact with them directly. Yeah, I've got so many plates spinning that I have to focus on the things that I can do effectively, which is the electronics and the programming, and other people have got to deal with the promotion. I just don't have enough bandwidth.
Yeah, so I suppose my question then would be back to Karen. How do we open up that conversation, because this is a bit of a game changer, is it not?
Well, I'm very happy for people to pick up those sorts of things. I'm not good at that sort of stuff. It's not my field. And if someone else feels that they can fill that particular role, then I'm more than happy for them to do it. I mean, I'd like everyone to regard this as our project rather than my project. Okay, yes. I came up with the original idea, and at the moment I'm the only person who's doing the electronics and the programming. But this is something for everyone. It isn't mine. I'm not going to make any money out of it. It's just a thing I'd like to see succeed. And if other people want to help in doing that, then join in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said Karen there. I meant Diane, just in terms of, I just wondered, Diane, whether I completely get that, Jonathan. No, absolutely. It's more kind of, I don't know, you're probably sensing frustration in terms of why aren't DEFRA, the MBU, kind of, engaging with you, more proactively. But
I
maybe
think that's
Diane,
something BBKA can ask them, isn't it, Luke? We can.
This is just what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can set something up. We can make the introduction and try and aid any sort of chat between the two, to be honest, because it is very important.
Yeah. Right, Patrick. Patrick?
Sorry, we've skated over a number of things since I put my hand up, so I will be very brief. The first thing is that I'm involved in the Environment Agency on strategic risk to do with water, and one of their strategic risks, which is emerging. So water is a huge deal to do with housing development, planning and environmental damage and so on. And one part of that is the damage to the ecology taking place, particularly in water systems and particularly in chalk streams and the like. And the Asian hornet is very firmly on that map. So I think, having been involved a lot with the wildlife trusts, who are landowners across the country, they're headquartered in Newark, they operate in every county, and our councils, certainly in this part of the world, are umbilically connected to the wildlife trusts for some major projects. We've already had discussions about Asian hornet tracking on water systems and how you monitor that for environmental threats. And I think that everything we've talked about this evening is equally applicable in those areas. And they've got people, they've got staff, they've got money. So I would regard them as a strategic partner in this space in a major way. I'm very happy to pick up with that. The second thing is there's a lot of confusion about privacy law. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been involved in privacy regulations and identity management for the last 20 years. And I was involved with the Article 23 committee that came up with the GDPR, what we know as GDPR Act today. The important point here is a balance of legislation. So landowners actually have a duty of care in law with regards to their neighbours. So if you do own a big farm and you decide you don't want to publicise something, that's fine. But if you're on a much smaller property and there's a potential threat to something or somebody next door, you have a duty of care in law and you are publicly liable. So there's a balance to be struck here going forwards. And these discussions are beginning to emerge, particularly on the edges of the LRFs. So I've had this discussion with police, for example, and also with the Ministry of Defence. And again, I think this is something that I don't think it's our job. I think it's a DEFRA job to pick up, and it isn't the MBU. It's actually, I think, might be in the B policy unit and Nicola Pearce, but I really think it's going to be in the environmental agency where a lot of this is going to come out. And they're looking for help in this space. So I would suggest this is something that we might want to socialise. MBU is tiny in the grand scheme of things. There are 35 agencies in DEFRA, and the MBU is a very small part of APHA. And a lot of what we're asking for is in places like CEH or NNSS and other areas. So I would suggest we need to be careful about who we're asking, and we need to target appropriately rather than going to the MBU and expecting them to do the heavy lifting on our behalf. So again, very happy to sort of help with that. And if there's anybody else on the call who's also sort of a Whitehall person, do please get in touch.
Thanks, Patrick. Charles, if you unmute.
I was just going to refer to samples of Asian hornets. I bought mine from Thorns, and they sell them by the dozen, I think. The difficulty is when you take those to a demonstration, everyone nicks them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they're not easily chained down, are they? Somebody in the comments, and I can't think who it was, suggested we have a European hornet and a wasp and an Asian hornet all in the same block. And I suppose
I
the
have some of
advantage
those as well. That is dead right.
Are they available commercially, Charles?
Well, the European hornets that I had came from my association, sort of, and they've been lying in a box for years. But I've had them. I've just done a whole lot of markets talking about Asian hornets and selling honey at the same time, and we had both on the table. Very interesting, because the European hornet is obviously much larger.
Yes. On the member hub, under let me just remember myself which bit it is. When you've logged in, on the first block it says latest news and events. If you look on there, and I will screen share so you can all see what I'm actually talking about, because this will all make sense. There is a feedback panel there, members feedback. That leads to a Google form that will allow you to send us feedback. If there is particular feedback you would like to share with us tonight, whether you are a source of Asian hornets, you perhaps want Asian hornets, it should be in the drop down to pick about Asian hornets. Send us a comment, include your email, and then we can collate feedback. And you can use that feedback for other things as well. So Is that everything, Charles? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely fine.
Right, thank you. Luke?
Yeah, Helen Morwood had a set of three, a wasp, European hornet, and an Asian hornet, all in the same block of resin. I'm not sure where she got them from, and I'm not sure if she's actually here this evening. Helen, if you're here, if you could post on the chat where you got that from, that might be helpful.
Luke, I don't know if you can see, but I'm holding one up now.
Oh, yeah. Well done, Ian.
Let me spotlight for everyone. Thanks, Ian.
They're available from a small supplier somewhere in the UK. I can find the address.
Thank you, Ian.
That's great. Thank you. Next is Chris, please, if you unmute.
Yep. Yes, I put a comment in the chat as well. Like most of us, I've got a couple of those Asian hornets from thorns in the plastic blocks. Problem being, they don't look much like the real live hornet. They fade, you know, whether it's to do with the encapsulation process. But it just strikes me that there are millions of the bloody things in Jersey and in France. You know, a bag full in a freezer and a few bottles and some isopropyl alcohol. We could very cheaply, I think, with a bit of cottage industry, produce many more samples, and then we don't care if they go missing at talks and demo days and whatever. But you know, we don't have to pay £5 a time, whatever they are. So a little bit of self-help there. I think we could churn out thousands of these things very, very cheaply, which seems to be the theme of this evening, doesn't it?
Yes. I think the big cost then is the very small tubes to put them in. I did price some up the other week and then went and sat down and had a strong cup of tea to get over the price. But it is something I think we need to be looking at so that everyone can be equipped to share exactly what they look like with people. Andy was holding up a hornet before and he wants to ask a question now. So unmute, please, Andy.
Hi, thanks, Diane. Yes, I mean, you're right about them fading a little bit. And to me, and I've spent 2 years going to all sorts of county fairs and we've been setting up all sorts of educational talks and things for ages. It's not so much what they look like, which I think they're good enough for purposes. It's the opening of the conversation. And it gets people, it catches people to hold it in their hands while you're talking to them, really does help with the process of getting a message over. They've got something to focus on. So that you are right. It would be nice to have something that's very much more realistic, but it's as good as it gets from the point of view of education and getting things going. And virtually everyone I know who I've dealt with it has handled one. Hasn't left my presence without having the Asian Hornet app on their phone. So it does work in those ways.
Yes, thanks. John in Jersey says they've got plenty of live ones they can send us. We don't want the live ones. We'd like them dead, please. Thank you. If we could get some, if you've got lots that we could get over for Spring Convention, we could distribute them there because we have someone from every bit of the country there, so they could be taking them away. That might be something we need to talk about separately. Lucy.
Yes, I just wanted to say that Becca from Guildford BKA kindly provided me with some samples, and the setting them in resin is they do work out very much cheaper than thorns, and it's not that much investment or technical difficulty to doing them. But of course they fade, and they don't look exactly like a live one, but I also think that they look sufficiently unlike our native insects for people to know what they're looking for, and it's still useful. And also thank you to Becca for providing those.
And is this Becca who wants to ask a question, the same Becca? If you unmute, Becca.
Yes, I wasn't going to answer the question. I was just going to answer some of the questions that are being raised. Yes, I have probably brought more of the dead bodies into the UK than anybody else. John and Alistair have facilitated that, and Bob. I go over to Jersey about a week every summer and hunt hornets over there, and I always come back with some. There's a couple of issues with it. They don't travel well. If we can put them in alcohol over in Jersey, then they travel better. We get about 100 in a little honey jar, but Alistair has had problems getting anything more than about 70% concentration into Jersey in the last year or so. And I found the 70% discolors them fairly rapidly. So I have to have like 80, 90% back in the UK to transfer them in, but they've already lost some of their colour. We've also found, when I've said Ernie's resin has been signposted by Ian Campbell, he's doing them in very small batches. He actually did a 4-way one for us with a wasp, a bee, European and Asian hornet last year, and then he had a baby and he said the toxic chemicals were unsuitable, so he had to stop for a while, but he's now starting again. So the other thing that Ernest has worked out is that the hornets that we take from the centre of the nests when we dissect them are a much better quality than the ones that come off when they're taking the nests out, because when they go into the hoover they savage each other. They'll bite their wings, they'll bite their legs off, and then there aren't full bodies for Ernest to set into the resins. So it's not as easy as there's a freezer full and we'll just bring some bodies back. If you want to set them in resins, then they need to be a bit better. But having said all that, the ones that we've had in little jars in alcohol have been extremely popular, especially with kids. After 2 years, we're having to throw them away because they've become very limp. The solution around them has taken all the colour out. So they keep needing to be refreshed. So we do what we can, but if anybody that goes over to Jersey could bring some back, that would all help. And there are certainly people that want them. So
thanks, Becca. I think we need to coordinate this because I think they'd be such a useful tool, wouldn't they? Without us all piling into Jersey to go and get them ourselves, we will organise something. Thank you, Ian.
Becca made the point that I'd raised, which was Ernie's Resins on Facebook for the, as she's explained, for the hornets in resin.
Thanks. Janelle suggested we do a workshop of putting Asian hornets in perspex. I suspect it's too late to coordinate for the spring convention, but perhaps that's something that we could look at doing in an association somewhere later in the year. So thank you for that idea. And Jackie down in Dover is saying if the genetic analysis does not go ahead this year, then they could supply hornets for other associations. Just no live ones, please. So we are at 8:30. Oh, we've got a hand up again. Lucy?
One of the issues as well there, the NBU raised when we talked about them providing bodies, is that where they use poison to destroy the nest, so they're not comfortable with releasing, insects that have been killed using poison. So we might still be up a dead end with that one, but.
Thanks, Lucy. Jackie again, on mute, thank you.
I just wanted, you sounded like you were going to wind up, Diane, and I just wanted to say to people that with the system that Dover has been using, which is the 300 kilometre squared divided up into kilometre squared areas with a trap in each. So 300 kilometre squared divided up into kilometre squared areas with a trap in the centre of each. In 23, when we had the last Good Vesper year, we found 35 nests. And this year, we have had 38 nests. So there've been, I know that there was something like 160 nests found, but as I keep saying to people, actually it's because in Ashford and Canterbury, they were looking so much harder. They've got fantastic Asian Hornet coordinators there now, and they were getting the traps out last year. So inevitably, they were going to find more capture more hornets, and then National Bee Unit find more nests. But I am encouraged that our nest number, and we're going into our 4th year, has not doubled. I'm convinced, I know that people argue this with me, but I am convinced when you look at the distribution of nests in our area, they are found along the coastline. And I think most of them get blown over at some point and filtered out by the trees and the bushes, through exhaustion maybe, if they've been blown over, whatever, they turn up on the coastline. And I am convinced that if the southeast and the south, and the London area, those sorts of regions, can really get their act together and get those traps out this year, in a high density, if we can keep on top of numbers coming into the country, then it gives the rest of the areas time to get the nest numbers under control. And Buzzcopper here, we have been watching with great interest Jonathan's work on this. And well, it gladdens the heart to see that British ingenuity and creativity is still alive and kicking. I mean, this will be the game changer for us. The technology that the National Bee Unit brought in this year with the RFDIs, then that's helping them. But they can do nothing if we do not find that first hornet. And so we've got to get out there. I'm sorry to say this, I keep going on about it, but I really do feel that they will step back in 27 if we can't make big inroads. I'm going to be writing to Nigel Semments personally again to try and put into context the numbers this year, because if they just look at the raw data, they may just think that it's out of control, but it's not. If they knew where our boundary was and looked at the nest numbers where we are, they would see that actually there is some mechanism going on that is helping to keep the nest numbers down. But we can only do this with the help of the National Bee Unit. If they step back, we just do not have the thousands of pounds it would cost to take out all the nests that we would find. So
thanks, Jackie.
Okay.
Thank you. You've had someone say they share your optimism at keeping eradication in the fore. So thank you. Tim, good evening. Could you unmute? Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
First of all, excellent meeting. Thank you very much, Diane. And I note the great enthusiasm and determination of those present tonight to carry on the fight, which is threatening not just our amateur activity, but we should never forget that these creatures are very disruptive to all pollinators. And remember, pollination is the argument that works with government. Now, those of you who know me will know that I've had a bit of experience of arguing with government. I am deeply worried that what we're hearing now, as they change their level of activity, that this could be the thin edge of the wedge. And you must be absolutely on your mettle not to let this happen. With all due respect, you have to go beyond good friends like Nigel Semments and so on and so forth. This is a matter for government centrally. So get a steely resolve and think how you're going to deal with it. And, well, you know I love a fight and a campaign, but others can take this on. Be aware and don't let them get away with anything. The Bee Health Advisory Forum used to be the place to raise this, and just don't accept no for an answer. When we were told by the minister there would be no money coming forward for bee health research, We found the answer. It was £10 million with the Insect Pollinators Initiative, but we didn't get that answer straight off. So enough propagandizing, but well done, everybody. But steel yourself for the fight. And Diane, you and the team centrally have got to beef up the effort, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Luke?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what Tim said a little bit. Tim, believe me, we're going at it hammer and tongs. Honestly, that's the first thing, and the second thing that I wanted to touch on is what you said about lobbying government. There's, I believe that there's over 100 people still on this Zoom. We cover a big stretch of the UK between us all here. We all need to contact our MPs. This is the way that we have to go. I mean, if we can get enough pressure and enough MPs talking about it, then perhaps we can turn the tide. Yeah.
Thanks, Luke. Are there any other comments or questions? It did sound like I was wrapping up at 8:30 because when I start to wrap up, everyone wants to say things. So I'm happy to stay till 9 o'clock if anyone else wants to ask a question again. Patrick.
Thank you. So this last little discussion is not new. It's been rattling around here. We've had 4 MPs involved around where we are. Partly because we have the biggest MOD land holdings in the country with us, and we see those as a reservoir for AH and a potential national threat. And one of those people is also the Deputy Speaker in the Commons. So what I've discussed up in Westminster is the potential of setting up an all-party parliamentary group on this. You need 6 MPs to get one off the ground, and I actually think, given the unfolding situation, we should give some serious thought to that. But I kind of go, I'm triggering what Tim said. It needs people involved in this who are familiar with the dark arts of Whitehall and Westminster. It's not something where you can just go in with a well-meaning pitch in a letter and expect a response. It doesn't work like that. And I would be very happy to work with others to work on the dark arts as people wish, but we can certainly help. So I'm proposing that we think seriously about setting up an all-party parliamentary group, because that would provide the act of trying to set one up would itself create a very strong focus.
Thank you, Patrick. Can anyone who's interested in that in the first instance email me, and I will forward them on to Patrick and we can have a discussion about that. I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in being involved in, Tim, with your past experience. Just so that those who don't know are told, Tim was responsible for smokers on Whitehall when many beekeepers turned up to tell the government what they thought. And we've seen recently the tractors at Whitehall. Perhaps it is time for some beekeepers again. What do you think, Tim?
Can you hear me? Yeah, you can. Yeah, look, letters have their place. Private meetings with MPs have their place. But it needs, my experience is, you need to think it through. Nothing happens by chance. You need to plan it a bit and really have clear objectives. Don't rush into the fight with anything you can grab hold of. Make sure you've got the right weapons in your hands. And that's information. I think Jackie's comments entirely encouraging, but look at the massive, I'm underneath it all. I'm a bit of an ecologist. I did oceanography and catch curves. In other words, how much effort you put in. If you kept fishing the North Sea, you could kind of prove there were plenty of cod left, but there weren't. You're doing great work there, Jackie, but look, think it through, plan it. And we were incredibly fortunate in that campaign that we had a real maverick MP, Ian Gibson, who was an honorary fellow of the BBKA until pancreatic cancer got him a few years ago, and he loved to fight. We need to find an ally to build on. We can't form all-party parliamentary group, but as has been said, we need a small group of MPs to get it going. Questions in the House, adjournment debates, briefings in Westminster Hall, so on and so forth. It's great fun if you like that. I know nothing about beekeeping. I'm only interested in fighting with people in Westminster, apparently. But it's something really to consider, plan carefully for, and as I said, and always say, the most welcome word I ever got from Jeff Rooker, who was the minister at the time in charge of bees, was a two-letter one, no. And I said, thank you. We can now, I just alert you, we're going to start a campaign. I then went back and spoke to the executive and we started a campaign. I stuck my neck out, but I knew that people would be there. Plan it, be determined and take it from there. Definitely. Every aspect of it is important. And that's enough preaching from me, Diane.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Yes. Sophie's just said she's got a good MP who may listen. Can you get in touch with us, Sophie, and we can have a chat about this? We'll have a conversation with those people who are keen to take this forward. If you have an interesting MP who likes a bit of rabble rousing, then that's probably who we need, isn't it? Luke?
I think Lucy set us up when I was in the costume outside Westminster, and Lucy is friendly with a couple of MPs, so maybe it might be worth.
Yeah, Catherine West. I could probably, a few of us contacted our MPs around Asian Hornet Week, so we can maybe get organized to follow up in more of a concerted way. And I think any input from you, Tim and Patrick, and anyone who can maybe help guide that effort for maximum impact, I'm all ears.
Right.
I mean, especially the MP from Dover, Lucy, because she was doing some sort of environmental campaign, from what I can remember of the conversation. So, yeah.
Right. Thank you. I am going to call us to an end, I think, now. We're not quite at 9 o'clock. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you to Jonathan for his excellent information. There are 80 responses on the form I created within the space of this meeting. That's pretty incredible for you all to fill in that form tonight. Thank you. Please give us some feedback. And if I do not see you again before Christmas, have an absolutely fantastic Christmas. Eat too much and be merry.
Thank you.
So, good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Good night.